There are some lessons in life you can learn simply by listening. But there are others you only truly understand after you've paid the price. You trust the wrong person and spend years trying to rebuild your faith in people. You waste too much time trying to please everyone, only to wake up one day and realize you've been living a life that was never truly yours. You delay an important decision because of fear, then watch the opportunity disappear. You sacrifice your peace to hold on to relationships you should have walked away from long ago. And the most painful part is this. Most of life's greatest truths seem obvious only after we've learned them. But before that, we can spend years resisting them. We want everyone to like us. We believe that if we explain ourselves enough, people will finally understand. We trust words instead of watching actions. We wait for motivation before we act. We fear failure so much that we never begin. And sometimes, we hand control of our happiness to people who don't even care about our lives. But you don't have to learn every lesson through suffering. You can learn from the mistakes of others, from those who spent years chasing things that never truly mattered, from those who were betrayed, who failed, who were underestimated, rejected, and forced to rebuild themselves from nothing. In this video, you'll discover 70 life lessons worth learning once and remembering forever. Not empty cliches designed to make you feel better for a few minutes, but truths that can change the way you see people. Time, failure, loneliness, self-respect, relationships, and your own life. Some of these lessons may make you uncomfortable. Some may remind you of mistakes you're still repeating. And perhaps just one of them will make you reconsider a decision you're about to make. If that happens, remember this. One lesson learned at the right time can save you from years of regret. So don't just listen to agree. Listen to recognize what in your life needs to change. More than 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius wrote a reminder to himself. You have power over your mind, but not over outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is more than an ancient philosophical idea. It is the foundation of a mature life. Most people spend far too much time trying to control things that were never theirs to control. What others think of them, who loves them, who leaves them, what happened in the past, which opportunities were lost, and whether other people treat them fairly. Meanwhile, they neglect the things that are actually within their control, how they respond, the boundaries they set, the decisions they make, the habits they repeat, and the person they choose to become. Epictetus believed that freedom begins with the ability to distinguish between these two things. There are things that belong to you, and there are things that do not. Peace begins when you stop confusing the two. You cannot control whether someone betrays you, but you can decide whether you will continue giving them the power to hurt you. You cannot change the years you've lost, but you can stop wasting the next year regretting them. You cannot force others to see your worth, but you can stop diminishing yourself to earn their acceptance. That is where inner strength begins. Not by becoming cold, not by pretending you don't feel pain, not by isolating yourself from the world, but by understanding that your life cannot be built on things you cannot control. A mature person is not someone who has never failed. It is someone who stops using failure as an excuse to abandon responsibility. A strong person is not someone who has never been hurt. It is someone who refuses to let what others have done determine who they will become. And a free person is not someone who can do whatever they want. It is someone who is no longer controlled by fear, the need for approval, the opinions of the crowd, or temporary emotions. Seneca once warned that we often suffer more in imagination than in reality. We fear things that haven't happened. We replay conversations that are already over. We imagine judgments that others may not even be making. And while the mind is busy fighting those ghosts, real life continues to pass us by. That is why the 70 lessons ahead are not 70 rules for controlling the world. They are 70 reminders to help you gain greater control over yourself. Because in the end, your life is not determined only by what happens to you. It is determined by what you do next. 1. Take full responsibility for your life. The day you stop blaming is the day you begin taking back control. Maybe you were treated unfairly. Maybe someone hurt you. Maybe you never had the opportunities that others had. But if you keep waiting for the world to repair the damage it caused, you may be waiting for the rest of your life. Taking responsibility doesn't mean everything that happened was your fault. It means that from this moment forward, you decide what you will do with what happened. Your past may explain you, but don't let it become the excuse that imprisons you. 2. Stop seeking approval from people who don't have to live your life. So many people give up what they truly want because they're afraid of what others might think. But ask yourself, do the people you're trying to impress have to live with the consequences of your choices? No. They may judge you for a few minutes and then return to their own lives, but you may have to live with your decision for years. Listen to valuable advice, but don't hand the steering wheel of your life to the crowd. You don't need everyone to understand your path. You only need enough courage to walk it. 3. Watch actions. Don't be hypnotized by words. People can say anything. They can say they love you, respect you, will change, or will always be there for you. But words cost very little. Actions have a price. When someone's words and actions repeatedly contradict each other, believe their actions. Don't fall in love with someone's potential while ignoring who they actually are. Time reveals character. Pressure reveals nature. And repeated actions reveal the truth. 4. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. Every time you say yes to something you don't want, you may be saying no to your own time, energy, and peace. A boundary is not an insult. It is simply a statement of what you will and will not accept. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will often be the ones who resist the most when you finally start setting them. Let them be disappointed. You are not obligated to exhaust yourself just to keep other people comfortable. One well-timed no can protect you from years of resentment. 5. Don't wait for motivation before you act. If you only do the work when you feel motivated, you will live a life controlled by your emotions. Some days you will want to exercise. Other days you won't. Some days you will want to work. Other days your mind will find a dozen reasons to put it off. Discipline begins where emotion ends. Don't ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" Ask, "Is this something that needs to be done?" A life doesn't change because of a few intense moments of inspiration. It changes through small actions repeated even on the days when inspiration is nowhere to be found. 6. Stop over-explaining yourself. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not every accusation deserves an answer. You can spend hours explaining your intentions to someone who is determined to misunderstand you, and you still won't change their mind. Explain yourself when clarity truly matters. But don't turn your life into a courtroom where you're constantly trying to prove your innocence before the opinions of others. Sometimes, peace begins when you let people think whatever they want. You know who you are. Live in a way that allows your actions to say the rest. 7. Failure is information, not identity. You failed at something. That doesn't mean you are a failure. But too many people turn an event into an identity. A business fails, and they decide they're incapable. A relationship ends, and they believe they're unworthy of love. They get rejected once, and they stop trying. Separate yourself from the outcome. Failure only tells you that a particular approach didn't work under particular circumstances. It gives you data. It shows you what needs to change. Resilient people don't avoid failure. They learn how to use it. 8. Don't sacrifice yourself to save a relationship. A relationship that constantly requires you to betray yourself is not a place of peace. If you have to stay silent about everything that hurts you, make yourself smaller so the other person doesn't feel threatened, or abandon your self-respect just to keep them from leaving. The price has become too high. Love should not require you to disappear. Some people only fit into the version of your life where you have no boundaries, no voice, and no ability to say no. When you change, they may leave. Let them. Losing someone hurts, but losing yourself to keep them hurts even more. 9. Fear is often greatest before you act. The mind has a remarkable ability to turn one small step into an imaginary catastrophe. You think about a difficult conversation for weeks. You imagine dozens of worst-case scenarios. You delay because you don't feel ready. Then, finally, you act. And you realize that reality is rarely as terrifying as what you created in your mind. Courage is not waiting until you're no longer afraid before moving forward. Courage is moving forward while the fear is still there. Don't wait until you feel ready. Sometimes, readiness only comes after the first step. 10. How others treat you depends partly on what you continue to allow. One act of disrespect may be a mistake, but when the same behavior keeps happening without consequences, it can become a pattern. A boundary is not just something you say, it is something you enforce. If you say a behavior is unacceptable but continue accepting it again and again, your words will lose their weight. You cannot control how other people behave, but you can control how much access they have to your life. Remember this, what you repeatedly tolerate often becomes the standard others believe they can impose on you. 11. Don't waste your life waiting for the right time. You can spend years waiting until you're confident enough, skilled enough, stable enough, or ready enough. But the perfect time rarely comes. There will always be a reason to delay. Always a fear to overcome. Always something that isn't completely certain. If you wait until every condition is perfect before you begin, you may never begin at all. Prepare well enough. Think carefully. But then, act. Because sometimes, what you call patience is really just fear disguised as logic. 12. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. If you cannot tolerate your own company, you will be more likely to accept the company of people who are wrong for you. The fear of loneliness keeps people in toxic relationships, chasing meaningless attention and constantly needing noise to escape their own thoughts. But being alone is not the same as being abandoned. It can be the moment when you hear your own thoughts most clearly. The moment when you discover what you truly want without the voices of the crowd interfering. Learn to enjoy a quiet evening, a meal by yourself, or a walk without needing someone beside you. A person who is not afraid of solitude is far less likely to sell their peace just to have company. 13. Don't compare your first chapter to someone else's 20th. You see someone else's success, but you don't see the years they spent failing. You see the result, but not the price they paid. You see one beautiful moment on social media and unconsciously compare it to the entire complicated reality of your own life. That is not a fair comparison. Everyone has a different starting point, different circumstances, and a different timeline. Learn from those who are ahead of you, but don't use their success as evidence that you are failing. The most important race is between who you are today and who you could become if you simply refuse to stop moving forward. 14. Not every thought in your head is true. Your mind may tell you that you're not good enough, that everyone is judging you, that you're certain to fail, that one mistake will destroy everything. But a thought does not become true simply because it appears in your mind. Learn to observe your thoughts instead of immediately obeying them. Ask yourself, do I have evidence for this? Or is this just fear pretending to be the truth? You cannot stop every negative thought from appearing, but you can stop giving every thought the power to command your actions. 15. People who truly care won't only appear when they need you. Some people only remember you when they need advice, help, an opportunity, or somewhere to unload their emotions. But when you need them, they're always busy. Don't judge a relationship by beautiful words spoken during convenient moments. Look at consistency. Who is there when you have nothing to offer? Who checks on you when they need nothing from you? Who remembers you even when their own life is going well? Real care doesn't only appear when it's convenient. Don't confuse being needed with being valued. 16. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone another chance to hurt you. You can forgive and still walk away. You can let go of resentment and still close the door. You can wish someone well without allowing them back into your life. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from having to carry the past every day. It is not a license for someone to repeat the same behavior. Don't confuse kindness with having no boundaries. A peaceful heart can still say no. And sometimes, the wisest form of forgiveness is to stop seeking revenge while also refusing to go back. 17. Time will pass whether you act or not. You may think it will take 3 years to learn a new skill, 5 years to build a career, a year to transform your body or create a different life. And you think, that's too long. But those 3 years are going to pass anyway. The only question is, where will you be when they do? So many people abandon long-term goals because the distance seems too great. Then they spend that exact same amount of time procrastinating, complaining, and wishing they had started sooner. Don't be afraid of a long journey. Be afraid of looking back one day and realizing you stood still while time kept moving forward. 18. Don't tell everyone about your plans. Not every dream needs an audience. Sometimes, talking too much about what you intend to do creates a feeling of accomplishment before you've actually achieved anything. You receive praise. You feel excited. But the energy that should have gone into action has been spent on words. Let some goals grow in silence. Work before you announce. Build before you show. Finish before you seek recognition. You don't need everyone to believe in your plan. You need enough discipline to make it real. 19. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. A moment of anger can last a few minutes and destroy a relationship that took years to build. A moment of despair can make you abandon something you've worked on for a very long time. One bad day can convince you that your entire life is falling apart. When emotions are at their highest, your ability to see clearly is often at its lowest. So when possible, give yourself time. Sleep on it. Take a walk. Be silent. Let the wave pass before you decide where to steer the ship. Emotions deserve to be heard, but not every emotion deserves the authority to make your decisions. 20. There are people you have to lose in order to find yourself again. Not every loss is a failure. Some people leave and create an empty space. But in that space, you begin to hear your own voice again. You realize you changed your preferences to please them. You stayed silent to avoid conflict. You made your ambitions smaller so they wouldn't feel insecure. And when they're gone, at first you feel empty. Then you feel free. Don't judge every ending only by the pain of the first day. Some doors don't close to punish you. They close because you've outgrown the room you were living in. 21. Discipline matters more than talent when talent goes unused. There are many intelligent people who never build anything meaningful. Not because they lack ability, but because they cannot remain consistent. Talent may help you start faster, but discipline determines whether you keep going when the work becomes boring, difficult, and no one is there to applaud you. An ordinary person who does the right things every day can go much further than a talented person who only acts when inspiration strikes. Don't obsess over whether you're gifted enough. Ask yourself a harder question. Do you have enough discipline to keep doing what needs to be done when you no longer feel excited about it? 22. Money can't buy happiness, but a lack of financial control can destroy your peace. Money cannot buy genuine love, perfect health, or a meaningful life. But debt, uncontrolled spending, and financial dependence can create enormous suffering. Don't spend money trying to impress people who don't care about you. Don't upgrade your lifestyle every time your income increases. And don't confuse looking wealthy with being free. Financial freedom doesn't necessarily mean owning everything. Sometimes, it simply means having enough breathing room to say no to a toxic job, leave a bad situation, or face an emergency without immediately falling apart. Earn money, save, invest wisely, but don't let money become the master of the life it was meant to serve. 23. Don't demand respect from others if you keep breaking promises to yourself. You say you'll start tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes, and you procrastinate. You promise to set a boundary, but you give in the moment someone pressures you. You say you'll change a habit, but quit after a few days. Each time this happens, something is quietly damaged, your trust in yourself. Self-respect doesn't come from positive thinking alone. It is built when your actions prove that your own word means something. Start with small promises and keep them. Because before you ask the world to trust you, become someone you can trust yourself. 24. Your environment can be stronger than your willpower. If you're constantly surrounded by people who dismiss discipline, mock ambition, and normalize stagnation, you'll have to fight every day just to avoid becoming like them. People absorb the standards of their environment faster than they realize. The way you speak, what you consider normal, the level of effort you accept, the limits you place on yourself. All of these are influenced by the people around you. You don't have to abandon everyone simply because they're different from you. But be careful of environments that make the worst version of you feel comfortable. Sometimes, changing your life begins with changing the room you walk into every day. 25. Not everyone who loses you has actually lost something. Don't automatically assume that when someone leaves your life, you have to prove that they were wrong. Maybe they'll regret it. Maybe they won't. That's no longer your responsibility. You don't need to turn your life into a performance of success just to make an ex, a former friend, or someone who once underestimated you feel sorry for losing you. If every achievement is still directed toward people from your past, they are still controlling you. Grow for the life ahead of you, not to take revenge on the life behind you. The real victory is when you no longer need them to regret anything. 26. Silence often reveals more than argument. Not every battle deserves your participation. Some people don't argue to find the truth. They argue to win, to provoke you, or to drag you down into their emotional state. You are not obligated to answer every insult. Not because you're weak, but because your attention has value. Sometimes, silence gives you the chance to observe. You see who loses control when they don't get a reaction, who keeps talking when no one argues back, who reveals themselves when you don't interrupt them. Knowing when to speak is power, but so is knowing when nothing needs to be said. 27. Don't trust someone just because you've known them for a long time. Time does not automatically create loyalty. You can know someone for 10 years without ever truly seeing how they behave under circumstances that test their character. Watch what they do when they're jealous, when you become more successful than they are, when they no longer need you, when staying loyal to you comes at a cost. Those moments reveal more than 1,000 conversations ever could. Don't become suspicious of everyone, but don't give away your trust based on history alone. Trust should be built through consistency, tested through actions, and maintained through character. 28. Sometimes you don't need more advice. You need action. You watch another video, read another book, ask another person, make another plan. But deep down, you already know what you need to do. You're simply delaying the moment when you have to do it. Knowledge can become a very subtle form of avoidance. It makes you feel like you're making progress when, in reality, you're still standing in the same place. There comes a point when you have to stop preparing and start. You won't think your way into becoming disciplined. You have to act with discipline. You won't read your way into becoming courageous. You have to step into what scares you. Don't turn learning into a hiding place from living. 29. One bad day does not mean you have a bad life. Some days, everything seems to go wrong at once. You make a mistake, receive bad news, argue with someone, fail to finish your work, and your mind quickly jumps to an extreme conclusion. Everything is falling apart. But don't use one day to judge your entire life. A bad day is just a bad day. Sleep, eat properly, take a walk, deal with what can be dealt with, and let the day end. Tomorrow doesn't guarantee that all your problems will disappear, but it gives you a different perspective from which to face them. 30. Don't go back to the place that broke you just because you feel lonely. Loneliness can make the past look better than it really was. You remember the good moments and forget why you had to leave. You remember the laughter but forget the sleepless nights. You remember the closeness but forget the times you were disrespected. You remember what was familiar and call it love. Be careful. Not everything familiar is safe. When you're lonely, don't let one moment of weakness erase the lessons you paid such a high price to learn. You can miss someone and still know that they no longer belong in your life. Missing someone is not always a sign that you should go back. 31. Don't spend too much time regretting the time you've already lost. One of life's most painful paradoxes is that we often waste the present, regretting the past we already wasted. You think about the years you spent procrastinating, the opportunities you missed, the people you trusted who didn't deserve it, the decisions you know you would make differently if you could go back, but you can't go back. And every hour you spend punishing yourself for the past is another hour of the present lost. Learn the lesson. Take responsibility. Repair what can still be repaired. Then move forward. Don't let 10 years of mistakes turn into 20 simply because you spend the next 10 regretting them. 32. Not everyone deserves access to the new version of you. You change. You grow. You learn to set boundaries and stop accepting the things that once hurt you. Then someone from your past comes back. They say they've changed, that they miss you, that things will be different this time. Maybe that's true. But forgiveness does not require renewed access. You can no longer be angry with someone and still choose not to reopen the door. The old version of you paid a price to learn these lessons. Don't betray that version of yourself just because the past suddenly comes knocking. 33. How you react when you don't get what you want reveals who you really are. It's easy to stay calm when everything goes your way. It's easy to be kind when you're treated with respect. It's easy to be patient when you don't have to wait. But your true character appears when you're rejected, disappointed, defeated, or confronted with something you cannot control. Do you blame everyone else? Do you destroy what you've built because of one moment of anger? Or can you accept reality, adjust, and keep moving forward? You cannot always choose what happens to you, but the way you respond will gradually determine who you become. 34. Other people don't think about you as much as you think they do. You worry about a small mistake you made. You replay something awkward you said 3 days ago. You fear that everyone is watching, judging, and remembering every flaw you have. But most of them are busy worrying about themselves. People are the main characters in their own minds. The thing keeping you awake at night may have been forgotten by someone else within minutes. Don't give so much power to an audience that mostly exists in your imagination. Correct your mistakes when necessary. Learn from embarrassment. Then keep living. You become far more free when you realize the world isn't watching you as closely as you once believed. 35. Don't try to save someone who is determined not to change. You can support someone, encourage them, give them advice, stand beside them during difficult times. But you cannot change someone who doesn't want to change. If they repeatedly make the same choices, create the same problems, and then ask you to rescue them from the same consequences, be careful. Compassion doesn't mean you have to drown with someone simply because they refuse to swim. Sometimes, consequences are the only teacher a person is willing to listen to. You can love someone without turning your life into a place where you constantly repair what they refuse to change. 36. An apology without change is just a way of delaying consequences. I'm sorry is easy to say, but when the same behavior continues to repeat itself, the apology slowly loses its meaning. Look at what happens after the words. Does the person take responsibility without making excuses? Do they change their behavior? Do they respect the boundaries you've set? Or do they apologize just long enough for you to calm down, only for everything to return to the way it was? Don't measure remorse by tears, promises, or emotional speeches. Measure it by changed behavior. A genuine apology doesn't just want forgiveness. It tries not to create the same wound again. 37. Your life is shaped by the small things you do every day. People often overestimate the power of one big decision and underestimate the power of small actions repeated consistently. One workout won't transform your body. One day of reading won't transform your mind. One focused morning won't build your career. But when those actions are repeated hundreds of times, the result can be completely different. The same is true in the opposite direction. One day of procrastination may seem harmless. Breaking one promise to yourself may seem insignificant, but small things accumulate too. Don't just ask what you want your life to look like in 5 years. Ask yourself, where will the things I'm repeating today take me in 5 years? 38. Don't confuse attention with love. Someone texting you constantly doesn't mean they respect you. Someone being jealous doesn't mean they love you deeply. Someone always wanting to know where you are doesn't necessarily mean they care. Attention can come from love, but it can also come from loneliness, the need for control, ego, or the fear of losing possession. Don't just look at intensity. Look at quality. Do you feel safe? Respected? Free to be yourself? Healthy love doesn't just make you feel desired. It allows you to remain yourself while being close to someone else. 39. You don't have to respond immediately when you're angry. One of the most valuable skills you can learn is creating space between emotion and reaction. A message makes you angry. An insult hits your pride. Someone deliberately provokes you. Your first instinct is to react immediately. But reacting quickly is not the same as responding powerfully. Sometimes, strength means putting down your phone, leaving the room, waiting for your heartbeat to slow down and allowing reason to return. You can say what needs to be said an hour later, but you cannot easily take back words spoken in 1 second of lost control. Don't let 1 minute of anger create consequences that the calm version of you will spend years trying to repair. 40. Growing up sometimes means accepting that you were part of the problem too. It's easy to remember all the times other people hurt you. It's much harder to look back and admit the times when you were selfish, immature, unfair, or caused pain to others. But real growth requires the ability to look at yourself without protecting your ego at all costs. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you stayed too long and then placed all the blame on someone else. Maybe you expected things from others that you were unable to give them yourself. Admitting that doesn't make you weak. It gives you the opportunity to change. You don't have to hate the person you used to be, but you have to be honest enough not to keep becoming them. 41. One day, you will do something for the last time without knowing it. There will be a last time you sit down for a meal with someone, a last time you walk into a familiar home, a last time you hear someone's voice, hug someone you love, or live through a chapter of your life that currently feels completely ordinary. But most last times don't come with a warning. They simply happen. And years later, you realize that moment never came again. This doesn't mean you should live in fear of loss. It means you should be more present. Put down your phone when someone important is talking to you. Don't always postpone the call. Don't treat ordinary days as though you're guaranteed an endless supply of them. One day, the moments you're rushing through now may become the moments you would give anything to experience again. 42. Stop watering a relationship that has already died. A relationship cannot survive for long when only one person keeps making the effort. You're always the one who texts first. Always the one who checks in. Always the one who tries to fix things. Always the one finding excuses for the other person's distance. Of course, people get busy. People go through difficult seasons. But when a lack of effort becomes a lasting pattern, look at the truth instead of constantly inventing excuses. You cannot build a relationship alone when it requires 2 people. Stop spending all your energy trying to prove that you're worthy of being cared about. Sometimes, stop reaching out for a while, not to play mind games, but to see what remains when you stop keeping everything alive by yourself. 43. Confidence doesn't come before action. It is created through action. Many people say, "I'll start when I feel more confident." But usually, it works the other way around. You begin while you're still afraid. You do something you're not yet good at. You fail, adjust, try again, and gradually realize that you're capable of facing discomfort. That is how confidence is built. Not by standing in front of a mirror and repeatedly telling yourself that you're not afraid, but by collecting evidence that you can act even while fear is present. You don't need to feel like a confident person before you walk into the room. Walk in. Confidence may follow you. 44. Appreciate what you have before life teaches you its value by taking it away. People adapt very quickly to good things. A healthy body becomes normal. A roof over your head becomes normal. Someone who is always there for you becomes normal. Until one day, that ordinary thing disappears. Then suddenly, what you once overlooked becomes something you would give almost anything to have back. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending that life has no problems. It means not allowing your problems to blind you to what is still good. Don't wait until you lose your health to appreciate your body. Don't wait until you lose someone to remember all the things you never said. Learn to recognize value before it becomes a memory. 45. Unspoken expectations often become the source of resentment. You expect someone to know what you need without being told. You expect them to remember an important date, to understand why you're silent, to realize what's hurting you. And when they don't, you feel disappointed. But people cannot read minds. Don't turn a secret expectation into a test that the other person doesn't even know they're taking. Communicate clearly. Say what you need. Say what's bothering you. Speak before disappointment turns into resentment. The other person may still fail to meet your needs, but at least you'll judge them by how they respond to the truth, rather than by their failure to guess what you never said. 46. Not every insult deserves your energy. If you stop to throw stones at every barking dog along the road, you'll never reach your destination. Life works the same way. There will always be people who don't like you, people who misunderstand you, people who criticize what they don't understand, people who deliberately say things just to get a reaction from you. If you respond to all of them, they are deciding where your attention goes. Learn to distinguish valuable feedback from noise. Correct yourself when criticism is true. Defend yourself when it's genuinely necessary. But don't turn every opinion into a battle. Your peace is too expensive to spend on every cheap provocation. 47. You don't have to win every argument. There are arguments where, even if you win, you still lose. You lose time. You lose your calm. You lose your focus. And sometimes, you lose an entire relationship just to prove something that never truly mattered. Before you argue, ask yourself, what is my goal? To find the truth? To solve the problem? Or simply to protect my ego? Not everyone needs to agree with you, and you don't need to correct every wrong opinion you hear. Sometimes, maturity means being confident enough to say, we see this differently, and then continuing with your life. 48. What feels easy today may make your life harder tomorrow. Procrastinating is easy. Skipping the workout is easy. Spending every dollar you just earned is easy. Avoiding a difficult conversation is easy too. But what feels easy today often sends the bill to your future. On the other hand, discipline is hard. Saving is hard. Telling the truth is hard. Getting up and doing what needs to be done when you have no motivation is hard. But the right difficult things often make the future easier. You cannot avoid all hardship in life. You can only choose which kind of hardship you're willing to endure, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Both have a price. Choose the price that moves you forward. 49. Don't give someone your secrets just because they make you feel close to them. Instant closeness is not always the same as trust. Someone can make you feel as if you've known them your entire life after only a few conversations. You feel understood. You begin sharing your most private thoughts. But trust needs time to be tested. Watch how someone talks about people who aren't in the room. If they reveal other people's secrets to you, don't assume your secrets will be treated differently. You don't need to live in suspicion, but let trust grow at the speed of evidence, not at the speed of emotion. Once a secret is spoken, it is no longer completely under your control. Choose your listener wisely. 50. Life becomes lighter when you stop taking everything personally. Someone doesn't reply to your message. You wonder what you did wrong. Someone seems cold. You assume they don't like you. A plan gets canceled. You feel unimportant. But not everything other people do is about you. They may be tired. They may be hurting. They may be worried about something you know nothing about. Or they may simply be living inside their own internal world. This doesn't mean you should ignore repeated disrespect. It means you shouldn't automatically place yourself at the center of every behavior. Watch the pattern. Communicate when necessary. Set boundaries if needed. But don't create unnecessary suffering by turning every silence, every glance, and every change in mood into a judgment of your worth. 51. Don't be afraid to start over when your current path is taking you in the wrong direction. Many people stay in a job they hate, a relationship that has already died, or a path that no longer fits them simply because they have already invested so much time in it. They think, I've already spent 5 years on this. I can't quit now. But 5 years lost is not a reason to lose 5 more. Starting over can be frightening. You may have to become a beginner in a new field. Admit that your old plan didn't work. Give up the comfort of what is familiar. But moving faster in the wrong direction won't help you reach the right destination. Sometimes, the bravest decision is not to keep going. It is to stop, face the truth, and choose another direction. 52. Stop trying to prove your worth to someone who has already decided not to see it. You can do more, love more, sacrifice more, explain yourself more clearly. But if someone has already decided to look down on you, every attempt to prove yourself may only leave you exhausted. Your worth does not increase when someone recognizes it, and it does not disappear when someone refuses to see it. Don't spend your entire life standing in front of a closed door, trying to convince the person inside that you deserve to enter. There are other places where you won't have to beg to be respected. Knowing when to keep trying is wisdom. Knowing when to walk away is wisdom too. 53. Choose your life partner carefully, because that choice affects almost every area of your life. The person you choose to be with doesn't only affect your emotions. They can affect your peace, finances, health, confidence, ambition, and the way you see yourself. The right person can make difficult seasons easier to endure. The wrong person can turn even a good life into a battlefield. Don't just ask whether you love someone. Ask, can I trust this person when life becomes difficult? Can we handle disagreement without destroying each other? Does this person still respect me when they're angry? Chemistry can create attraction, but character determines whether a relationship can survive in a healthy way. 54. Patience does not mean standing still. Some people say they're being patient when, in reality, they're simply waiting for life to change while doing nothing. Real patience is not passive. A farmer cannot pull a plant out of the ground to make it grow faster, but he still has to plant the seed, water it, and care for the soil. The same is true for you. You cannot force success to arrive immediately. You cannot master a skill in a few days. You cannot build a new life overnight, but you can do today's work. Patience is not the absence of action. It is consistent action without demanding immediate results. 55. Stop trying to control how other people tell the story of you. In someone else's story, you may be the villain. Even if you did your best, even if you had your reasons, even if they only tell half the truth, you could spend months trying to correct every rumor, every misunderstanding, and every distorted version of who you are. But that is a battle with no finish line. Take responsibility for your real mistakes. Apologize when necessary. Repair what can be repaired. But then, live. You cannot control the story that exists in someone else's mind. You can only control the character you demonstrate through your actions every day. 56. If a problem can be solved, act. If it can't, don't let worry. Pretend it's helping you. Worry creates the illusion that you're doing something. You think about the same problem hundreds of times. You imagine every possible disaster. You repeatedly ask yourself, what if this happens? But thinking more does not always mean solving more. Ask yourself, is there a specific action I can take right now? If there is, take it. Send the email, make the call, prepare the plan, apologize, save, leave, begin. If there is no action you can take in the present moment, recognize that continuing to worry will not give you control over the future. Don't let your mind force you to pay repeatedly for pain that may never happen. 57. Don't trade your health for success and then use your success trying to buy back your health. Ambition can be a good thing, but if you constantly sacrifice sleep, neglect your body, live under endless stress, and treat your health like an unlimited resource, one day your body may force you to pay attention. Success means very little if you're too exhausted to enjoy it. Work hard, but remember that your body is the only place you have to live for your entire life. Sleep enough. Move your body. Eat well. Rest without feeling as if you're doing something wrong. You don't have to choose between ambition and health, but you do need enough wisdom not to destroy one while chasing the other. 58. Not every delay is a failure. You watch other people move faster and start to panic. They get married before you, succeed before you, earn more money than you. They seem to have found their path while you're still confused. But life does not have one universal timeline for everyone. Moving quickly down the wrong path is no better than moving slowly down the right one. Sometimes, a delay gives you time to become the person capable of keeping what you're pursuing. Don't use someone else's speed to measure the value of your journey. Slow does not mean losing. Not as long as you're still moving forward. 59. Truly strong people don't need to dominate every room. There is a kind of insecurity that always needs to be seen, heard, and recognized. It has to speak the loudest. Have the final word. Prove that it's the smartest or strongest in the room. But real strength is often quieter. Confident people don't need to turn every conversation into a competition. They can listen without feeling small. They can admit when they're wrong without feeling destroyed. They can let someone else shine without seeing it as a threat. Don't confuse dominance with strength. Sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove it. 60. Learn to leave before your self-respect is completely destroyed. Many people don't leave the first time they're disrespected. They wait. They hope. They forgive. They give another chance. And sometimes, that is the right thing to do. People make mistakes. Relationships require patience. Not every problem is a reason to walk away. But there comes a point when patience becomes self-betrayal. When you have to constantly beg for basic respect. When the same boundary is violated again and again. When you no longer recognize yourself because you've spent too long living in anxiety, doubt, and pain. Don't wait until there is nothing left of you before you decide to save yourself. Sometimes, walking away is not giving up. It is the first time in a long time that you finally choose your own side. 61. Don't wait until you lose someone to say what should have been said. There are words of gratitude that are never spoken. Apologies delayed for too long. Words like, "I love you," held back because of embarrassment, pride, or because we always assume there will be more time. But time signs no contract with anyone. If someone matters to you, let them know while they can still hear it. If you were wrong, apologize while there is still a chance to make things right. If you're grateful to someone, don't wait until the day when you can only say those words in your memories. Not every relationship needs to be saved, and not everything needs to be said. But don't let your ego keep you silent about the words you may one day wish you'd had the courage to speak. 62. You don't have to become your old self just because other people were comfortable with that version of you. When you change, not everyone will be happy about it. Some people preferred you when you had no boundaries, when you always said yes, when you were easy to control, easy to predict, and willing to make yourself smaller just to keep the peace. So when you grow, they may tell you that you've changed. And maybe they're right. You have changed. That's the point. Don't go back to a version of yourself that made you miserable just to make other people comfortable. You are not obligated to remain the person they once knew. Allow yourself to grow, even when that growth means some relationships can no longer continue the way they once did. 63. A busy life is not necessarily a meaningful life. You can fill every hour of your day and still move no closer to what truly matters. Answer hundreds of emails, attend dozens of meetings, scroll through endless information, always rushing, always busy, always facing the next thing that needs to be done. But busyness can become a form of escape. An escape from the harder question: where is all of this actually taking me? Don't measure a day only by how many things you completed. Ask whether those things serve your health, your character, your goals, and the relationships that genuinely matter to you. You don't need to do more than everyone else. You need greater clarity about what deserves your limited time. 64. Don't let an old mistake keep deciding your future. Maybe you once did something you still feel ashamed of. A terrible decision. The wrong relationship. An opportunity destroyed by your own immaturity. You cannot erase what happened. But there is a difference between taking responsibility and sentencing yourself for life. If you have recognized your mistake, repaired what you could, changed your behavior, and become a different person, don't keep living as though you are still your former self. Guilt should be a teacher, not a prison guard. The past has the right to teach you, but don't give it the right to decide every chapter that remains. 65. Be careful with what you call someday. Someday, I'll start. Someday, I'll call them. Someday, I'll take that trip. Someday, I'll live the way I truly want to live. But someday is not a day on the calendar. It is where countless dreams are buried without anyone noticing. You cannot do everything today. You need plans. You have responsibilities. You need patience. But be careful when being reasonable becomes an excuse for endless delay. If something truly matters, give it a specific date, a specific step, or at least a real place in your life. Otherwise, someday can very easily become never. 66. You become what you consistently allow to occupy your mind. If every day you feed your mind with anger, comparison, negative news, meaningless arguments, and content that makes you feel insecure, don't be surprised when you lose your peace. Your attention is not an unlimited resource. What you look at every day influences what you think about. What you repeatedly think about influences how you feel. And repeated emotions can influence how you act and who you become. Protect your mind the way you protect your home. Not everything deserves to enter. You cannot control everything the world puts in front of you, but you can choose what you allow to stay. 67. Don't spend your entire life preparing to live. You study to get a job. You work to earn money. You save for the future. You sacrifice the present so that one day you can finally be free. All of those things may be necessary, but there is a danger. You can become so good at preparing for life that you forget how to live. You're always waiting for the next milestone. When you graduate, when you get promoted, when you earn enough money, when all your problems are solved. But life doesn't begin after the next milestone. It is happening right now. Build your future, but don't sacrifice your entire present for a tomorrow that is not guaranteed. Sometimes, eat dinner more slowly. Take a walk without looking at your phone. Sit with someone you love without thinking about the next task. Don't merely exist today so that you can live tomorrow. 68. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is refusing to let fear decide for you. If you wait until you're no longer afraid, you may wait for the rest of your life. You may still be afraid when you start a new job, still tremble when you tell the truth, still doubt yourself when you step onto a path you've never walked before. Fear is not always a sign that you should stop. Sometimes, it is simply evidence that you're stepping outside what is familiar. Listen to fear when it warns you of real danger, but don't obey it when it is only trying to keep you small, familiar, and safe. A life without any risk carries a very serious risk of its own. You may reach the end of your life without ever discovering who you could have become. 69. In the end, most of what you're worried about today will no longer matter. Think back to the things that kept you awake 5 years ago. How many of them still matter now? A comment, an embarrassing moment, someone who didn't like you, a plan that didn't work out the way you wanted. When you're in the middle of a problem, everything can seem enormous, but time changes its scale. That doesn't mean your present pain isn't real. It means you should keep a wider perspective. Ask yourself, will this still matter in a year? What about 5 years from now? If the answer is no, don't give it years of your energy simply because it is consuming one day of your life. Not every storm deserves to become the climate of your life. 70. Live so that when you look back, you don't realize you spent your entire life afraid. One day, you will look back, not at last week or last year, but at entire decades that have passed. And when that day comes, the important questions may be very different from the ones causing you anxiety today. You may no longer care how many people you impressed, how many people agreed with you, how much more you earned than your neighbor, or how many failures you managed to avoid. You may ask yourself, did I truly live? Did I love the people who deserve to be loved? Did I have enough courage to leave the places that were destroying me? Did I do what I believed was right, even when the crowd didn't approve? Did I spend too many years fearing things that never happened? No one lives without regret. No one makes every decision correctly. But you can reduce one particularly painful kind of regret, realizing that you knew what needed to be done but repeatedly lacked the courage to do it. Life does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present, responsible, courageous, and aware enough to recognize that time is passing whether you truly live or simply stand on the sidelines and watch. So don't wait for another life. Don't wait for a more perfect version of yourself. Start with who you are, the time you have, and the step you can take today. Because in the end, the greatest lesson is not how to control everything that happens to you. It is how not to waste the only life you have. 70 lessons. But you don't need to change 70 things all at once. Maybe just one lesson in this video made you stop and think longer than the others. Maybe it was the lesson about someone you know you need to walk away from, an apology you've delayed for too long, a boundary you need to set, a dream you keep calling someday, or a truth that, deep down, you've known for a long time but still haven't had the courage to face. Start there, because life rarely changes in one grand moment. More often, It changes when someone finally decides to stop repeating the same mistake. You cannot go back and recover the time you've lost. You cannot change the people who hurt you. You cannot erase every failure, every wrong decision, or every missed opportunity. But you still have the power to decide what happens next. And perhaps that is one of the most important truths you can take away from this video. You don't need to control your entire life to change its direction. You only need to control your next step. Take responsibility for what belongs to you. Let go of what you cannot control. Watch actions instead of being hypnotized by words. Don't beg for respect. Don't sacrifice yourself to keep people who have already decided not to value you. Don't wait until you're no longer afraid before you act. And don't live as though time were an unlimited resource. One day, all of us will look back. And when that day comes, what matters may not be whether you lived a perfect life. What may matter is whether you were aware enough to learn from your mistakes, humble enough to change, courageous enough to begin again, and present enough to truly live while life was still happening. If these lessons helped you see your life more clearly, subscribe to the channel and join us for more videos about wisdom, resilience, and the art of mastering yourself. But before you leave, remember one final thing. You don't need to wait for another failure, another betrayal, another wasted year, or another regret before you start living differently. Some lessons only need to be learned once. And if you have the courage to truly live by them, once is enough to change the rest of your life.